Did I understand correctly that Burble Boss has to go to jail? At the same time, who do German entrepreneurs think they are, not giving everything to the state and even handing over their last penny? After all, the state is doing so badly. Quote, it's easier to build a country after it has been shattered by war and death than to redirect a prosperous society. If you want to support this channel and always stay up to date, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. And I have to tell you, by now I feel like Germany is sitting on a real powder keg. I don't know when things are going to blow up here anymore. And the next polls are already underway, and it looks like things are going to get really bad.
We need someone now who can take on everyone, our own people, whoever it is. And whether I end up in jail because others say I have to go, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
A few months ago, I already made a video where I brought up exactly this topic and explained it. The moment you just waste German taxpayers' money somewhere and do it all illegally because, well, the Constitutional Court has a different opinion, but you still keep ignoring it. Without, any legal backing. And the second point is, you should never forget that history is always written by the winners. And that the SPD probably won't be the winner going forward, that should be absolutely clear to everyone here in Germany. And if at the same time you use Nazi methods against opposition parties, well then you really can't just dismiss that. That possibly someone like Bärbel Baas might actually face a prison sentence in the future because she knowingly used Nazi methods, for example. That originated in Germany, but that's not for me to decide. That will be decided by the courts later on. And that will happen once all this chaos here has settled down. And just how precarious the situation is will be briefly explained to you by a woman from the small business sector who is already thinking about what she can leave to her children. And pay close attention to how old the children are right now.
With 20 to 40 annual payouts, my children would have to sell at half the value just to pay the inheritance tax. What does the state gain from my children being expropriated? Man, you're forcing me now to transfer my shares to my 11-year-old child. I'm preparing everything right now. If you keep going the way you are now, you'll get nothing from me. Then I'll give my assets to my 11-year-old now.
The key question is, what does the state get out of this? The state has a huge advantage at first. It's inside the companies and can break them up. For example, for a planned economy or to exercise control over any company here in Germany. That's what the state gets out of it, for example. However, many companies are then, and we have to say this too, sold off cheaply to large Chinese corporations. That's where things really escalate again. Tax breaks are given. At the same time, what she's doing is extremely smart, passing everything on to small children early on. I wanted to keep it in the family too, but my father was so greedy, he sold everything and paid taxes. Let's just leave it. It's not my thing. However, what she's saying right now is the minority opinion. Many, and they also said this at the employers' conference, will sell their companies just like my father did. Partly to investors to break away, take their money and leave. This country seems beyond saving. That was basically the sentiment among the entrepreneurs. And, well, we have to listen to him for a moment. Not a day goes by without Friedrich Merz managing to turn everyone here in Germany against him.
I'm saying this without any whining. Changing a wealthy society is much more difficult than rebuilding a country after war and destruction. Once again, without any whining.
This video is going viral, so this video is going completely viral across social media. Because of course now even more people are afraid that he wants to bring a war to Germany. Because the heavy tanker, as he has always told us, can no longer be turned around. It simply doesn't move anymore because the Social Democrats just don't feel like it. You saw the video yesterday where he explicitly, once again, sadly addressed this And he clearly said that in the last federal election, he just barely missed the absolute majority, about 20 out of 50%. But well, that's Friedrich Merz's way of calculating. CDU members once again took that pretty badly, and yesterday they showed themselves with Sigmund Ulrich in a fighting pose, determined to change Saxony-Anhalt. And yes, the support for this chancellor keeps dwindling, and the SPD is in absolute panic.
Once again, my appeal. Protest is good, it's even very good in this case, and it will also be strong. I know that the protest action, also by the DGB, will be very large, and a signal will go out to the whole country. The images will speak for themselves.
Above all, violence against AfD representatives at their party congress. And now let's go back to the topic of Bärbel Bas and why prison sentences, among other things, are not so easy to dismiss. If you intend to prevent party congresses in Germany, to destroy an opposition party using, for example, Nazi methods, or possibly violate the eternity clauses. Here in Germany, I made a very long video about it, almost 40 minutes long, with very few clips. Feel free to watch it again. You've got a problem there. And you don't get that problem while you're still in power, but you get that problem when you're no longer in power. And the SPD has been part of every government. But if, for example, the balance of power starts to wobble now, and that's what people are so afraid of. It also comes out what the Domestic Intelligence Agency has on the AfD. Then we have a problem. Now just imagine they acted unconstitutionally against an opposition party just because they have a right-wing mindset, which by the way is completely legitimate here in Germany. I also have a right-wing conservative mindset. By the way, my children do too, my wife as well, and so do many people out there. And if you now try to destroy the parliamentary process, like what we've seen here in the last 48 hours, and you fail at that, and your time in government is over, then the initiators will come forward. And if they have committed crimes, yes, then that could mean up to 10 years in prison for Bärbel Bas. I think I once made a 35-minute video about this as well, explaining what I believe the legal violations were. And if you prevent a party congress here in Germany, no matter in what form, and then maybe even instruct the police not to let the key people through, yes, then that has serious consequences.
You may demonstrate if you have permission, sometimes even spontaneously, but blocking is a criminal offense under paragraph 21 of the Assembly Act at such an event, and that can lead to up to 3 years in prison. These crimes, as we already know, will be committed there to such an extent that the walls will shake.
So, and exactly from this context, it can't be dismissed. Should the SPD ever be gone? And the AfD should get into the relevant bodies? And then see that they've been destroyed without any reason. Yes, then it could actually lead to real prison sentences. And that's why I'm calling on everyone here in Germany. Please watch the coverage of the party congress. And definitely watch how the police act against these people. Blockades are forbidden. And the party congress, and I'll say it again, the date, what Joachim Steinhövel said and confirmed to me again, was also the first thing I thought of when I heard the date.
You must have lost all your senses if on the 4th July you think of anything other than the Independence Day of the United States of America, which of all years is being celebrated for the 250th time this year.
And at the same time, the federal president in Germany is supposed to be elected on the day of the Nazi Party's seizure of power here in Germany. And yes, Independence Day, and I really have to say, I'm a huge fan of Independence Day. I've probably watched it 100 times in my life. There wasn't as much back then. The slightly older ones probably remember that. But I'm a huge fan of it, yeah. And that was also the first thing I thought of, like, how awesome is it to hold the party convention exactly on that day? And yeah, I knew a bit earlier that it was going to be on that day. But maybe I'll tell you about that sometime in another video if you don't figure out why I know that. And I really have to say, yeah, if we wanted to treat every date in Germany when the Nazis did something as off limits, then basically we wouldn't be able to do anything at all anymore. I would also say maybe the Bundestag shouldn't meet at all anymore and just pass laws in secret. Oh, wait, no, that's exactly the NSDAP thing, which isn't good anymore. Well, that's a position we don't need anymore. It's unnecessary. That's exactly what's happening here in Germany right now and what I criticize so much. And if it now comes out that the SPD acted in exactly the same way and let itself be so corrupted by power, yes, dear SPD, then at some point prison sentences will be waiting for you. Because the Nazis knew that back then too. They wouldn't get out of there alive anymore.